Hello and good afternoon, and welcome to Noonday Meditation and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour. My name is Martin Cowart, and we've been gathering in this virtual sanctuary for over a year now as a refuge to love and support each other, initially through the pandemic. And now that we've all gotten through that, and thank God we did, and those of us who have, and those of us, and I think all of us are different people. We're all different today than we were to begin with. And it's been a real joy to be on this journey with you. And now as we are coming out of the crisis of the pandemic, it's not over yet, but we're coming out of the crisis of it. We're beginning to look at what do we do with this new wisdom about ourselves and the world. And so I've been celebrating this month with celebrating women for the month of March. And I'm so excited today to have a friend that I met a few years ago at a National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce conference, and just became quick friends. And I really enjoy her company and her inspiration. She's just a joy to be around. So I'm so excited to have her on the show today to talk about celebrating differences and empowering ourselves through our differences. And she got a wonderful story to tell. And I'm going to get quiet now because, I'm a speaker and I love to talk. So I'm going to not talk for a little while. And I'm going to turn it over to Ashley and let her introduce herself and share her story. And Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, by the way, anyway, if anybody's joining us, please just say hello in the comment section. Let us know you're here. Say, I can't tell from StreamYard if you're online or not. Just say hello, I'm here and glad to be here. And also just if you got comments, put them in. We love dialogue and we love to interchange. So speak up, make comments, and Ashley, take it from here. Before we do this, let's recognize that one of my dearest friends and one of my most loyal fans is Audrey Smalls. And she is this wonderful woman who has been on here before, is my guest. We are both speakers. We're both members of the National Speakers Association, and we've been in the same sort of public speaking circles for quite a while. So she's just a wonderful person. So
I feel like that I should know her.
You know her, and you probably will get to know her. And she came out late in life. She has a wonderful wife, and that came out much later in life. And so she's just a wonderful person. So Audrey, thank you for joining us today. And Ashley, now we'll turn it back over to you again, and let's hear a little bit about what got you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here and have this lunch power hour for those on the East Coast, for those on the West Coast, right? It's like, we're just getting the day started. But yeah, I got into this whole world of leadership and inclusion, kind of by accident, honestly. Some of us call ourselves accidental activist or advocate. That definitely fits my description. And I'm going to take you in my time machine way back in time. So as far back as I could remember, I always just knew that something wasn't right with my gender identity. As a little kid, I would always kind of gravitate towards I had an older brother and an older sister, and so the choices were plentiful on hand-me-downs, and I just kind of gravitated towards my sister stuff, and just I got kind of you shouldn't do that. I got kind of had to keep getting reminded that something was going on with my gender identity, and in the 90s, 80s, and 90s, like we didn't talk about that, definitely. So I hit it, and then in the 90s, I actually almost transitioned. Knowing what I know now, I was definitely considering, and it was. I had a close family member who kind of gave me some really good advice that I needed to hear at that moment, which was, if you are going to go down that path and associate with people from that community, that you won't have some of the things that you want. Like, I really wanted to have a family, and I really wanted to have kids, and I really wanted to be alive. And those are things that might not necessarily have happened. So I hid, as best as many people do, to hide under cover. And so then that kind of brought me to to where I reached a breaking point in 2008. And I know that so many things happened in 2008. The financial crisis was a major hit to so many people. And I was one of those victims. I should have never been approved for the mortgage that at one point I was holding 2 mortgages, and it totally got me. It got me good. The house I bought for $235,000 was only worth $75,000 when it was said and done, and it wrecked me. It ruined me financially. It ruined my my savings. Literally ruined everything. And then I lost my job, and I was at the lowest of the lows. And I started trying to pick up the pieces, right? It's like that's what all of us try to pick up pieces and navigate that way. And so I started doing that, started picking up those pieces, and little did I realize that the pieces that I was picking up were nuggets of empowerment that I would later then turn into this concept that we're going to talk about here in just a second. But this 2008 crisis really was one of the eye-opening moment for me. Was trying to now navigate what I was going to do, and I had started investing in my kids because they were the ones that really saved my life. Not that my wife Whitney didn't save my life too, but definitely the kids. Having kids, were there. I was literally living for them, and that was quite a mission. And then in 2009, I started kind of exploring gender identity and expression, and I was ready to re-enter the workforce in 2010. And I took my 12 years prior work experience in the restaurant industry, where I started as a server making $4 an hour, non-tipped $4 an hour. And I worked my way all the way up to being a corporate manager, and then a general manager, and then I was doing like regional stuff for the organization in the state of Florida. I did all that. I worked 12 years there. I had such great experience, but the human resources professionals that I would come in contact with while looking for employment kept saying, "Oh, well, we would love to have you." Like, I would use my power and privilege to be able to kind of talk my way into an entry level position. And that's when this kind of went off in my head, and I said, you know what, if I'm going to start at the bottom, I'm at least going to be me, and I'm going to be comfortable, and I'm not going to live a double life. I'm not going to hide anymore. Because if, like, literally for minimum wage, $8 an hour at that point, I'm gonna be me. Like, there's no sense in hiding at that point. So I started coming out in the job interview process, and let me just tell you, the power and privilege that I had before immediately got sucked out of the room. It was like dropping 30 social economic levels in one fell swoop by just walking in as my authentic self as a female to the world. And it was intense. I got told everything from, "We would never hire anyone like you," to, "You have the wrong address, please leave." I had the cops called on me. I got trespassed. Like, I was just like, wow. Like, I was thinking about my experience as an HR leader running a team of 50 people, and I would have never told anyone something like that. And so, yeah, that was really an eye-opening moment. It was the first time that I had faced discrimination ever, because I moved into society as, white cisgender straight guys are, really privileged. I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
The most privileged category, but especially a straight white cis het male. that's just how this world is. And if you don't recognize privilege that you have, and that's why I'm so glad that you're doing this, right, to highlight women voices for Women's History Month. It's so powerful in doing that. It's what moves us from just being an ally to being an advocate, because there's a big difference between those two. So I started saying, wait, let's see what I've got going on here. Let me try to start to get past these discriminatory practices without, it's not like I was going to, call the ACLU. I mean, this is 2010. Like, trans rights weren't really at the forefront of the battle at that moment. Let's not kid ourselves, right? So I said, you know what? I'm going to use empowerment to get past this. And what that means is I started to talk about the power of my community, and the passion behind it and the numbers behind it. Putting a financial moniker on your diverse community is the quickest way to empower someone to want to invest in you. Now, I tried leading with other things first. When I first started these job interviews, I led with education. And that's when I would go in and talk to them, do like a trans 101 in the job interview. And I would say, hey, yeah, I'm trans. Yes, here's what that is. And then they would ask questions, and it was great. And my average interview went from 15 minutes to 45 minutes by leading with education, which was fantastic. But it didn't get me any job offers. So then I started leading with inspiration. And leading with inspiration was fun. And what that looked like is, like, I'd say, hey, look, there is a big chip on my shoulder. And I see one of my good friends, T Nurse, on the live stream here. It's always excited to have friends of mine join in, stuff
Yeah.
like
Hey,
this.
Tom. Nice to see you here, T Nurse. Glad you're here. Thank you for joining us today.
So yeah, and so I led with inspiration, which is this chip that I keep pointing on my shoulder, and I would say, don't you want to have someone like me on your team who's going to want to prove themselves, to show that the transgender community can survive, that we can produce for your organization? A much aligned community that is ready to win for you. And while that was great, it led to second job interviews, but it wasn't leading to any job offers. So then that's when I said, leading with empowerment, followed up with some inspiration, follow up with some education, but leading with empowerment is what got me through the door. And I started in the financial services industry as a part-time bank teller. And then the next 5 years, I worked across from being a registered investment advisor to doing business banking to you name it, all in the financial space. And it was fun, and I got to learn, I got to grow, I was a revenue producer, just like I promised I would. That was that empowerment piece. I would talk about the 2 million transgender people that exist in the United States. I would talk about the $1.7 trillion that the NGLCC economic study report shows. I would talk about the 1.4 million LGBT business owners in America, right? Those were the talking points in that job interview to highlight empowerment. We can empower ourselves, any difference, and we can research the community that we represent, and we can encapsulate that when we're talking or when we're building a relationship with somebody else. That's what kind of leading with empowerment really was, that mission behind leveraging my differences, taking what was different about me and using it as an advantage. Because many people will say, oh, wow, you are trans, you probably shouldn't tell anyone that. But I was like, you know what, let's do the opposite and let's see what happens. So that's what I did. Just do the opposite.
That's it, because do the opposite of what the ego says. I got what was coming up to me around empowerment is you. What it is, it sounds like to me, is you're positioning yourself by making it really clear what a valuable contribution you can make to that company from being
Hmm.
your authentic self, by having the
Yeah.
courage to be you. And people can get that, because people can get, and that's how wealth is made. Wealth is made by adding value, by making a contribution for the betterment. So when you
Yeah.
can go into the right company and you can say, tell me about your challenges, tell me what's going on here, and you say, oh wow, I can get that. I understand what you're trying to do, and I can make a valuable contribution to the betterment of your company and help you solve that problem.
Yeah. Well, and when you break down the word empowerment, so to empower someone, you have to give power and authority to them. And you can also empower yourself. So to give power and authority to yourself and others. Um, you know, don't take those words lightly. It's you.
No,
It's lots of selflessness that comes with empowerment. Um, you have to really be thinking about how you can help others. It's a big. There's a big portion in that. It's not something that you should just throw around and make the title of your book. You really have to have.
you kind of have to walk the talk.
Yeah, you have to deliver. You have to deliver results to be empowering. You have to do that, and that's what I did across the first 5 years. So then I got this big promotion, and I became the VP of Diversity and Inclusion. Um, and right before my 5-year anniversary, um, and doing that and how I was able to position that job to get created was because I kept positioning around empowerment. And I would, help others, right? It's like all of our diverse communities are so much stronger together when we work together. Every win that we have for LGBTQ plus equality, right, can be circled back to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 in some ways. So when we see communities working together, that's when I think real empowerment comes from that. So I wrote this book, Empowering Differences, which, of course, as you are aware now, it's the intentional act of using empowerment to cultivate real change for your life. And it can be, it was originally meant as a career guide. Um, and it's grown into much more than that, because you can use empowering differences and helping to grow your business. You can use it in your personal heart space as you navigate the things that you do. Yeah, there's lots of fun, power, and passion behind that. And trying to think about what else. There's a lot.
You mentioned in your book that, like, I think there's 4 principles. Four,
4-step process.
yeah. Kind of just give us a quick outline of what those are and how they
Yeah.
operate.
So the book Empowering Differences, which is available everywhere, widely on every website, every book, Audible, you name it, Amazon, or you can get your copy at empoweringdifferences.com. But there are 4 steps, so it's a 4-step process of empowerment. So step 1 is to know yourself. And step 2 is know others. And so those 2 steps are what I often like to say as a trans superpower, because people who transition, and of course I'm saying that really loosely, because Martin, you just transitioned from the prior meeting to this meeting, right? And we have to transition people in their careers. We have to transition them in their finances. We transition them, right, from meeting to meeting. Like, literally, that concept is, um, when you look at it holistically, moving from thing to thing or changing one thing to the next thing, it all rolls up to change management and how you functionally manage change. And as someone from the transgender community, I can tell you with 100% certainty that that is a superpower that we hold. Is that holistic way to inventory and look at everything there is about you in knowing yourself. And then knowing others is another piece to this, because you have to really evaluate when you go through such a major life transition. You really have to evaluate what is important in your life, what you want out of your life, what you want to keep, what you don't want to have, right? All of those things are decisions that go into making any kind of transition point. So it's really, really impactful. And that's why I kind of have it as those are like the early parts of your Empowering Differences mission, is doing that holistic inventory. So, so I do have a self-assessment that, and I'm assuming maybe I could drop that in the link somewhere. I can probably put that right on the Facebook here because I do have that up on my phone.
Good.
Yeah. So forgive me. I'm just looking, multitasking, so that way I can do that. But yeah, it's and then so step 3 is in. I finally found it. Here we go. Boom. There you go. See, multitasking. Um, so step 3 is there. You go. There it is on the bottom screen. So step 3 then is developing your strategy. And I know that we have a lot of strategic thinkers out there listening, watching. But how you go about your strategy really matters if you're leading with empowerment. So the book and the workbook that goes with that, and I didn't yet talk about that, but the workbook has the self-assessment in it. But now you have a copy of the self-assessment for free. But in the workbook, it's more than just a self-assessment. It also takes you through your journey around developing your strategy. And then it leads to step 4. And that's the big part about the workbook is step 4, which is the empowering actions. So if you're going to lead with empowerment and you're going to know yourself and you're going to start learning about others and develop your strategy, you better come with that power, right? And give it to others and lead with empowerment and deliver on actions. Because if it's not actionable, then you're not necessarily really being empowering for others.
Mm-hmm.
So I've outlined 10 empowering actions. There's, of course, a lot more empowering actions that are out there. That'll be in book 2. But the 10 empowering actions to leverage change really are ways to connect and grow. They're amazing ways to build connections with others. And in each one of those actions in the workbook, which is really, really fun, is you have the opportunity to do an exercise that's aligned to that action. And it takes you through that process of empowering others. And you're able to build that connection for the world that not only you want, but you want others to have as well.
Yeah, and anytime we step out of our comfort zone, if you will, and every time we change, every time we have a transformation of going from one way of being to another, particularly when we're moving up the ladders of consciousness, until we're moving into larger areas of greatness, and we're going to be entering into an area of chaos. In the egoic mind cannot stand not knowing what's going to happen. It doesn't like change. It likes to know exactly what's going to happen. It wants to predict, and it's often predicting something negative.
Yeah,
but
it's an unconscious bias.
Yeah, it's the unconscious bias. Exactly, it's the negative unconscious bias. So when we have the courage to say, "Oh, wait a minute, thank you for your advice, but I'm going to step into this anyway. I don't even know what's going to happen here. I just know that I feel empowered the more authentically I am." And by the way, I want you to know I'm a contemplative, and it's why we have meditation, because that's how I teach how we get our power. We let go of our.
Right.
We're going to do it in a minute. We're going to meditate, where the whole idea is to surrender, to let go of every belief, every opinion you have about yourself in this world, and let go to step into that heart space, that authentic you, that your true nature, if you will, your authentic nature. And when we're in that space, we're not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
And that because there's nothing to be afraid of, because we've got everything we need. We realize we are the creators of the universe.
Yeah. So true.
And
yeah,
we
I
can
love
create
it.
anything we want to create, because now, and that comes from the heart. So when we come from the heart and we come from our authentic selves, and we have the courage to transcend those limiting places, and all of a sudden find ourselves, and oh my God, look what a wonderful world we can create. The more I am myself,
Yeah.
the more I
Well,
celebrate my uniqueness.
and one more thing to add here, right? I mean, I love the heart element, and you will reach a lot of people that way, but don't forget to also include that mindset, the mindset too.
Well, that's what I mean. It is
Yeah.
it is a
You
mindset.
gotta come, but you gotta come with the stuff that's gonna provoke the other side of the brain for individuals.
Exactly. You got
The numbers or the dollars, the
you got to.
money, right?
But what I mean is that you don't ignore ignore the
Yeah.
binary brain. We always
Right.
transcend and include those lower levels of consciousness to include the heart space, and then
Yeah.
we align all three. We're a more wholehearted, more powerful person, because now
Yeah.
we've aligned the heart, the mind, and the soul and the body all in sync
Yes. I love it.
to serve the world.
And I honestly call that, when that happens, I call that my 10th empowering action, which is why I put that as the last one. Not because it isn't the most important one. Of course, I always say lead with empowerment, but the 10th empowering action is enlightenment.
Yes. Isn't
There's
that
a
what
reason for that. Now
isn't
you
it,
know why it's in
isn't it
that
all
order,
about, because that's what we've done.
because that's what happens.
People think enlightenment is something you do when you go off into a cave somewhere and sit for 40
No.
years. Enlightenment is just when you realize that you're the divine.
That's when that moment happens. That's
That's
why
all it is. It's like,
that
oh my God, I am the divine.
that is literally why that is the 10th empowering action.
And
Not because
I love
people are like, oh, how they're in an order for a reason.
I got you. You have to convince me.
Yeah.
It's that when we're in that space, there's nothing and by the way, I want you to know that a name for my divine presence is I call it Divine Mother, is Joy the Wise Woman.
Okay.
And what I do every morning to get into that, to wake her up, is I get up in the morning. This is very important to me. I have a power hour, but if anything else, I just get up in the morning and sit with a cup of coffee and allow my heart to wake up with the day. And all of a sudden, I'm looking around, and all of a sudden, everything looks a little different, because presence has stepped into my being. And I'm realized, wow, this is just this being human is magnificent. It's wild, And now I've got the power I'm empowered, because I'm in my authentic self, which happens to be a gay man. And the more I step into that power, the more I'm able to contribute to the world.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. This is great. Did you know we were going to get this deep? Like,
yeah, I do. I kind of had an idea. That's what I do.
You
That's why
saw
we
it
do
coming.
it. When I
One
get
more thing though,
on the show that agrees, it's a different story, but the same path,
Yeah. One more thing I was going to say about enlightenment, just to make sure that people are really, really aware, conscious of what some of those differences are around enlightenment, is that when you look at education, because a lot of people say, oh, well, when you can teach someone, right, something, you can educate them something. So that's why education is closer on the continuum of my empowering actions, because you educate someone, it's a first step towards enlightenment. It is not enlightenment. Just because you've educated someone does not mean that they've been enlightened. Enlightened, way different than education. Like, that's like saying that you got elected and then all of a sudden now you're the president of the United States. No. There's a lot more steps that have to happen before you get to that point.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think exactly is that enlightenment is really a grace, and it certainly happened to me a few years ago when I was not getting something I wanted to get accomplished, and I was in agony. I worked so hard for it, and it was clearly not going to happen. And I remember that night lying in bed in anger and just in anguish. And I said, well, why? Why can't I have this? Why can't I get this? And all of a sudden, I had this sense of calm come over me. and peace and power and this voice in Martin, none of this stuff matters. The only thing that matters is that you show up with love and gratitude, and I will do the rest. I meaning, and that was like, oh, I meaning I, the divine. Be still and know that I am God. And so I had that was back in 2018, and I've been learning. That was my moment, and
that was your aha moment.
Aha. And then it took me a little while to live into that and figured what that meant. How do you do that? But that's what I teach now, and that's what we talk about, is that it's all about a path to enlightenment.
I love it.
And what most people don't realize, I mean, a lot of what I teach is I teach spiritual wisdom, and I particularly teach the spiritual wisdom teachings of Jesus, which most people don't even know exist. And when you look at Jesus was a teacher of non-dual consciousness like Buddha. And when you study the mystics and you study Jesus from the perspective as being a wisdom teacher, not information, but wisdom to remind us of the truth of who we are, everything changes. And we can begin to listen to the teachings from a perspective the same way we listen to the teachings of Buddha. Because it's not about trying to create a religious or a belief system. It was about teaching people a path to enlightenment, what he called the kingdom of heaven. In the kingdom of heaven, there's not some place you go if you're a good little boy or girl. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, is that higher level of consciousness or empowerment that you're talking about. And I don't think a lot of people, well, as Christian mystics, we all know, because that's what we talk about. But part of what I'm doing is helping people understand that Jesus was not trying to teach us to have the Christians, don't even get me started on that whole thing, but that's just a whole bunch of nonsense, because what he was really teaching was not create a belief system around me, but this is what you need to do to enlighten yourself and realize we're all one loving energy in the world, and how we make a difference for others.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into some of that space, right? Some heart space right now for the next 20 minutes. I'm going to lead us into a little meditation, and it's something I call centering prayer. And what that means is we center ourselves out of our heads and we center into the heart. And so that we begin to lead from the heart in that mindset you spoke about a while ago. When we include the heart in our thinking, in our mindset, so that it includes the heart, it knows the truth. And it can break us through those limiting beliefs of the egoic thinking mind. So what we do is we get still and we just consciously let go of all of our beliefs, our opinions, our judgments, and just sit in that space of emptiness, that cloud of unknowing. Like, I don't know anything really, because we don't really know. The ego thinks it knows it absolutely knows nothing. And it loves to predict tomorrow when it has no idea what's going to happen tomorrow anymore. Than it just doesn't know. But I'll tell you what does know: Joy the wise woman, because she's the creator of all things. So, and it's not a knowing like this is going to happen. But I'll give you one example real quick. I knew that Stacey Abrams was going to turn the state of Georgia into a blue state. I knew it from a deeper wisdom of where she was coming from, that she was empowering the people of Georgia to take control of their lives, and that's powerful. So it's really about a deeper knowing, but you have to let go of the egoic mind's knowing to step into that more infinite intelligence that we all have. Mm-hmm. That's what centering prayer is about. So we start by raising your arms. So raise your arms up. And we raise them up this month, particularly because we're celebrating women, and we're celebrating Ashley, and we're celebrating all how they inspire us and all of the value, the contribution they make to the world. But it's also to remind us just how close we are to our spirit. Because if we didn't have that life spirit, I don't care how big your muscles, you could not raise your arms. What raised your arms was the divine. And your body listened. You obeyed. You were the servant. So we can put them down now and just get comfortable. And you can close your eyes or you can leave them open. It's up to you. But just now begin to breathe. We're gonna do something called to bring us from outward thinking into inward looking and inward living. We're going to do some conscious breathing to bring us deeper inside ourselves. And let me get the timer set here. Before I forget, there we go. So just begin to breathe. And one of the things to slow down the thinking of the mind is to slow down the vibration of the tongue. When we think, the tongue vibrates. And a little technique that I'll teach you is to take the tip of your tongue and rest it on the roof of your mouth, behind your front teeth, part your lips, relax your jaw, and just breathe. And as you're breathing, allow the breath to gently massage the back of your tongue. And just notice how it slows down the mind. Just do that for a few moments. Just gently breathe in and gently massage the back of your tongue. Lovely. Just lovely. Notice that thoughts will come up. That's what the brain does. Don't argue with them, just let them go. And now we're going to do 3 belly breaths to bring the breath and the spirit more deeply into our body and anchor it in our belly. It's going to look like this. You're going to use your belly muscles to pull the breath in through your nose and down the throat. Massage the back of your tongue, open your heart, and use those belly muscles to pull the breath deep into your belly and anchor yourself in your chair. Ready? Let's go. Breathe in. Breathe in a little bit more. A little bit more. Now just let it go. And as you let it go, I want you to consciously let go of every thought, every opinion, every judgment, every story you have about this world. Just let it all go. Hold on to nothing. And just allow yourself to be still for a moment and settle into your body. And as you're breathing, notice where you might be holding some tension. Notice where you might be feeling some emotions. Maybe you're feeling a little fear. Maybe you're feeling angry. Maybe you're feeling joy. Whatever you're feeling, just feel it. Right now, that's the point of going inside, is to really get connected to your emotions. They're here like little angels, little guides to guide us to the next motion, to the next step. As we get closer and more intimate to our authentic selves, notice what's coming up for you right now in the motion emotionally. And don't resist it, just be with it. And just be still. We're going to do another belly breath to get us even more anchored in, get us more centered in the moment. So with our belly muscles, we're going to pull the breath in through the nose, down the throat, massage the back of the tongue, open up the heart a little bit wider, and pull that breath deep into the belly. You ready? Pull it in a little bit deeper, anchor it in, open that belly up, create as much space as you can. Now, just let it all go. Doesn't that just feel good to let go all that extra work, all that holding on that the brain does to ideas and notions, especially those of which it is ashamed? Hold on to nothing. Allow yourself to fall more deeply into that beautiful cloud of, I don't know. The world of not knowing. Because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, but we know we have a deep power within us to create something wonderful. So let go of everything to make space for that creative genius to come alive, divine presence. And again, we do that with the breath, and we're going to do one more belly breath, then I'm going to be quiet. And you're going to hear an interval bell throughout the meditation. The purpose of that bell is just to wake us up from our thinking so that we can reset and fall back into that beautiful, still space of unconditional love within ourselves. There you go. One more breath. Ready? With your belly. Pull the breath into the nose, down into the heart space, into the belly. hold it just a little longer and really expand it all out, create as much space, and then just let everything go. And now breathe. And now just be still. Just be still. Knowing that I am the divine. You are the divine. You are the divine creator of the universe. We're all the divine creator of the universe. Many humans, one being. Sit in your being. There's the sweet sound of that wake-up bell to wake us up from our thinking, from our worrying, maybe even our sleeping, so we can remember to let it all go and fall back into that divine presence of love and big cloud of I don't know. Oh, there's the sweet sound of that wake-up bell to wake us up from our thinking, our planning, our worrying, our wondering. How long is this going to go on? All that sort of stuff. Just let it go. Surrender. Consciously let it go. And fall back into that sweet space of the cloud of unknowing, that unconditional love energy that we all have within us. There's that wake up bell one more time to wake us up out of our thinking, our planning, our worrying, maybe our sleep. So we just greet those thinkings, and those thoughts, and those ideas with an open heart and just let them go. And gently soften a little more and fall back into the sweet, tender arms of the Divine Mother. And there's our final bell. Now we're back. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Ashley. Is your volume on? Is your not hearing you?
How about now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Wow. I have to say that it's really difficult to do that in your office and while on camera to meditate and actually eliminate thoughts from your
Yeah,
mind. Very difficult.
yeah. That's why we have to have a practice.
Yeah.
You know, I started this back before the pandemic. Really, I came on a few times because my clients wanted to know how to meditate. So I thought, well, I'll just go online and
Yeah.
teach them how to meditate. I'll make some videos and I'll go on and teach it. So I just brought my practice on in the morning, and then when the pandemic came, I decided to actually turn it into a more of a daily show and create some content around it, around to teach people the power of meditation, the power of a practice. Not so much as just a way to kind of tune out and relieve stress, which is nice, but really how to empower ourselves, how
Yeah.
to step in, how to step out of those transition out of those limiting beliefs in our head of who we are, what we're capable of, and which is always shadow and almost always coming from a place of not enough.
Yeah.
To be in a place of abundance and prosperity, so we can create from that place of abundance and prosperity. And so I've been shifting it to focus lately on how, as a prosperity and mindset coach, how to be able to use this as a tool, if you will, to empower yourself every day and to take a moment out to step into that power and reclaim and replug in, I guess, if you will. So
yeah.
But I agree, it is very hard in the middle of the day, particularly if you're not used to it, and particularly on camera. I mean, you're right.
On camera, yes, very, very difficult because like you're thinking about posture, you're thinking about all these other things that you're supposed to not be thinking about. So it's like, and then I'm wearing this headset, and then it's like, well, and then I'm in my office, so like I'm in work mode, and like I have spaces in my house where typically I try to do those meditation moments. So
well, thank you for giving it your best effort here today.
I did totally, and I actually did have some meditation moments. So
good. If you just get a second or two, it's wonderful. I've been doing it for 40 years, and my mind still goes into thinking. I fall asleep sometimes. I've fallen asleep sitting right here and where I'm leading it. That's why I have the wake up bell wake me up too.
I love it. No, it's good. This is good.
So we're going to close out in just a second, but before we do, I want you to stick around until after I close out. We want to just talk to you for a second after backstage, but I want to be able to get in touch with you. What's the best way for people to reach you and find out more, get your book, so
empoweringdifferences.com is that website. Audrey, thank you. It was, hopefully we connect on social. You can connect with me at Ashley T Brundage, all one word, on all platforms. And then you can connect on social with Empowering Differences at Empowering Diff. Because in that one social, too many letters, they want consistent across all of them. So, and Empowering Differences is too long.
Well, I'm sure we will be able to find you. Thanks for letting us know how to do that. It would be, and this will be up for a replay. So if you're watching the replay, please type in your comments, reach out to Ashley, and I know she'd love to hear from you, because that's what we do when you're in this place of transformation and you're in this place of adding value and making a contribution. You want every chance you can get to do that. So if this was something that certainly was for me, that was empowering for you today, please reach out to Ashley and see what can be done. So before we go, I want to just tell everybody I've created a website. I've created a Facebook group. As many of you know, I am a prosperity and mindset coach working largely with gay, bi, and transgender men. And you might say, well, maybe I'm not letting women play or lesbians play. If I ask, I say, well, it's not that. It's not about excluding, but I'll say this about it. I'd be interested to hear, get your thoughts on that. It's about energy work. I do something called shadow work, and I will tell you that feminine energy and masculine energy are different. They're very different. And I've tried to work with women in shadow work, and I can't, because I don't understand that energy.
So the female essence.
Yeah, I don't understand the female essence. I'm very close to the divine mother, to my divine in female, the divine energy of the divine feminine, but I don't understand the essence of feminine energy. So I've hurt some friendships with that, because it's just an area that I can't go. I don't know. So I know what I do know, and I've had 20 years of mastering shadow work, working with men, and I'm very good at that. And I can help men. So I stay in the lane that I know. I'm not a therapist. I just know that one single lane, and that's what I stay in. So that's why, just so you understand why I deal in masculine energy. It's energy. It's all energy. It's all about navigating between the shadow, the dark, the fear, and all that false self, and the energy of the light. It's all the same light energy, but it's that dark energy of the shadows of the masculine versus the feminine that I have to be cautious of. So that's the reason why.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So if you want to join, if you're gay, bi, or trans, and you want to, I have a Facebook group. specifically for us. It's called Financial Heart Space for gay GBTQ men. And please join us. And I'm leading a workshop every Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock for you. So please do that. And thank you for joining us today. So anybody here with us today, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on and enlightening us all with your wisdom and your wonderful presence and your beautiful smile and just your authenticity and your courage, really. It's really a lot of courage, to do what you're doing. So thank you for doing all that.
Thank you.
So may love and prosperity prevail across the world.